So, about 100 and a bit days later, hundreds of hours of gaming, PlayStation 5, what do I think about it? Let's do this. So, let's talk specs. So, on paper at least, the PlayStation 5 is the second most powerful home console of all time. We're talking an 8-core CPU and a 10.3 teraflop GPU based on the RDNA 2 AMD architecture. To put that into simple terms, this thing is a monster. So now that we've got the technical mathematics out of the way, let's talk about aesthetics. So right off the bat, is it big? Yeah. Walk into a room and you can see it from a mile away. Does it bother me though? No, not really. Once you find a place for it to live, it literally just sits there minding its own business. But as soon as someone walks into a room and sees it, it will stand out like a sore thumb. Now, aside from the obvious, its size, what do I actually think about it? Well, I do wish it did come in all black. However, over these last 4 months, I have come to like the reverse Oreo look of the actual console. It looks like one of those fan-made concepts from back in the day of like the PS3 and the PS4, but this one's actually real. This one you can actually go out and buy. Well, buy sometime in the future when they're readily available. But I love the way it looks. Honestly, I think this is possibly the best looking console ever made. That being said, I will eventually put some black plates on there if I can get my hands on them. They seem to be harder to find than the actual console itself. But for the time being, anyway, this little Stormtrooper looks fantastic to me. And as I said before, I think it's one of the best looking consoles ever made. In terms of vertical or horizontal, I've got in the vertical position, and that's mainly due to space. But I do think the console looks strange horizontally. And I think that's because its lack of symmetry, especially on the disc version, just is so much more apparent when it's laying flat horizontally. Now, with this generation, Sony has done a fantastic job with their use of LEDs. Now, unlike the PlayStation 4 generation, where you knew the console was on just by how loud the fan is, the PS5 is almost whisper quiet. And so having LEDs that show you the status that your console is in is a fantastic addition. And it looks fantastic reflecting off the white plates. Now, it's not all positive. The black glossy bit in the middle is really delicate to scratches and dust and attracts fingerprints like I don't know what. So I don't really understand why they didn't go with the same material of black that they've used on the DualSense. But again, these are just some things that Sony do that baffles the mind. Also, jumping back to the symmetry thing, I do think that the digital version of the PS5 does look significantly better than the disc version. And again, that's simply due to the symmetry of the console. So if I think that the digital version looks better than the disc version, why on earth did I get the disc version? That's another conversation for a future video. Stay tuned. Another big issue, and though this doesn't necessarily relate to the aesthetics of the console, I've put it in here, is the SSD. Now, 667 gigabytes of usable space, simply not enough. Even though the SSD is the PS5's biggest strength, well, one of its biggest, that much space is simply not enough. But again, these are the decisions that Sony have made, and hopefully in future they release consoles with even bigger capacities. That being said, there is the option to expand the storage, but that's currently not available to us 4 months after the console's launched. And if you're like me, you've already maxed out the capacity on there and are now having to do jiu-jitsu and acrobatics to try to fit more games on there by deleting others. So the design of the PS5 was really polarizing when it was first shown, and I think people are still split on how they think it looks. So please let me know what you guys think. Now let's talk about the UI and dashboard. Now, though I think that this dashboard is a major improvement over the PS4's dashboard, I do still think there are some things that Sony have just got completely wrong. But first, let's talk the positives. And the positives are that this dashboard brings your games front and center. It brings you to your games faster, and it just feels truly, properly next gen. And I think that is something that we have to applaud Sony for. But the big thing that I find issue with is the fact that some things just take far too long or are far too complicated to do. Like being able to look at your trophies or see what your friends are playing, or even trying to message your friends, are just a couple of clicks too long. And I think this is something Sony really needs to address, and they should be able to fix these things because it was almost perfect on the PS4. But I think the biggest issue with the new UI and dashboard is the lack of customizability. Now, this isn't an issue for myself, but I know a lot of you out there love the themes on PS4, and that's something that's just simply not available on the PS5. I don't know if this is something Sony can really implement, but it would be a nice touch to add some forms of customizability to the dashboard. So here's us waiting. So let's talk about special features of the PS5. Now I've picked 3 special features that I think really encapsulates what this console is all about. And those 3 things are the SSD, 3D audio, and backwards compatibility. So let's talk about the SSD. Now, the reason why I think this is one of the biggest features is probably not because of what you guys think. Yeah, the load times are fantastic. We all know this. But I think it's what the SSD means for games. Literally, games like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart simply could not be done on previous generation hardware. And that's down to the SSD. And this is why I think the SSD is a game changer, because it is fundamentally changing the games we play. Now let's talk 3D audio. I'm not really sold on this one, and that's because I haven't really seen a lot of games truly utilize it to its full potential. But I've kept it in here because I still think it is a valuable tool to differentiate the PS5 from the previous generation. So games where I have seen it work well are games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Call of Duty. And I think games like Resident Evil will do a fantastic job of utilizing this tech. But again, I do worry that this will go like the trackpad on the PS5, where it's just something that people tack on and not necessarily utilize to its full potential. But again, these are things that we'll have to wait and see. But the fact that it is there, and when it is used well, it's amazing. Like just being able to hear footsteps and being able to gauge where those footsteps are in games like Call of Duty has really helped me in the game. Now I should probably add that 3D audio is currently only supported through headsets, and I think any headset will work, but don't quote me on that. I do think though that we will see the full potential of the 3D audio tech when PSVR 2 is out. So let's talk backwards compatibility. Now, backwards compatibility on the PS5 isn't as comprehensive as some of the other consoles, but it is a really cool thing to have, and games do run better without any patches. But when those games are patched, it's almost a night and day difference. It unlocks resolution, it improves graphics, it can improve load times, though that's been a bit hit and miss for me. But again, it is something that is nice to have, and it is a thing that will differentiate this generation from the previous one. Just being able to play your old games and have them be better. So guys, those were the three special features of the PS5 that I think are most important. But let me know what you guys think, because it's always interesting to hear another person's perspective on things. Now let's talk about the DualSense. This thing is amazing. I think SkillUp said that there are 2 next-gen consoles launching, but only 1 next-gen pad, and I think that summarizes what the DualSense is. It is a truly next-generation pad. Before I get into the haptics and the adaptive triggers, how does it feel? Miles better than the PS4 pad. I don't know if it's just me, but the PS4 pad felt cheap. Now, not necessarily due to the materials, but when you squeezed it a bit, it kind of felt like it could break. The DualSense is completely different. It feels completely premium and such a step above what we're used to on PlayStation. I do genuinely think that this is probably the most comfortable pad I've ever used. Now, there are some textures at the bottom that add a slight grip. It's not as prominent as the Xbox Series control pads, but again, this is something that Sony has added that really benefit us as gamers. But in terms of comfort, I think the biggest leap from the PS4 DualShock to the DualSense is the removal of that really annoying LED light bar. It's gone almost completely. So it does shine towards you, but at least you don't get that reflection against the screen that some of you guys probably have. Also, Sony has moved with the times, and we've moved from micro USB to USB-C, which is again a fantastic addition to the console. Now let's talk haptics. Honestly, they are fantastic. Using the DualSense and then moving to an older pad, I literally thought to myself, something feels seriously wrong about the vibrations in this pad, and I actually thought I had turned them down. But again, that's just testament to how fantastic the vibrations and the haptics are on the DualSense. So in games like Call of Duty, every gun feels different just by the way the haptics are. And it's really hard to explain, but once you do experience it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is vibration on a whole new level. But I think we all know that the biggest feature of the DualSense is its the adaptive triggers. The adaptive triggers are fantastic, and this is something that I think the Xbox should definitely incorporate. These triggers are basically immersion on another level. I always have them on, even when playing Call of Duty online. Now, a lot of you will say that that will give me a disadvantage, but I don't even know if I'm that good at the game in the first place. But immersion is why I play games, and these adaptive triggers really make me feel like I'm the one holding that gun in real life. And just being able to pulse my finger until I get to the biting point of the trigger is something that I found myself doing unconsciously. But again, these are things that really bring you into the game and really immerse you in the environment that you're in. Now, it's not all positive when it comes to the DualSense, and there are a couple of things that I think need to change. And the first thing is that we've got a built-in battery. Now, before we get into why I think this is a bad thing, there is something that I need to correct myself on. So last week I said that Microsoft and Duracell have a partnership together, which is why we most likely don't get a replaceable rechargeable battery in the Xbox Series consoles. This is not true, and I've put an article in the description below highlighting this. Also, one of you guys commented on the last video, the Xbox one, that I was incorrect, and I'm really appreciative of that. Guys, if I've given some information that you guys don't agree with or is in fact incorrect, please let me know, because I want you guys to hold me accountable to the information I'm giving people. And again, this is a community of gamers that I'm trying to build here. So let's build it together and let's hold everyone accountable, but peacefully. Now back to why I think a rechargeable built-in battery is still not a great idea. The reason why I think it's not a great idea is because if that battery dies and just stops working, you basically have to go out and buy a new pad, or at least open the DualSense and replace it yourself. Now, I've never had a battery die on me in this way, but I have noticed that the battery life has significantly depreciated on some of my old pads. And being able to just replace the battery yourself and having Sony sell replaceable batteries is something that I think they should have done with the DualSense. But there are a few more issues that having a non-replaceable rechargeable battery does bring. So, if you're playing a game and your pad dies, you're basically stuck with either stopping the game, replacing the pad that you're currently using if you have a spare pad, or plugging your pad into your console and, charging it whilst you play. And I know this isn't such a big deal, but just being able to, swap out a battery pack and then having one charge in game will solve a lot of these issues, I think. That being said, I think the DualSense is fantastic and by far my favorite control pad ever made. For you guys that do have a PS5, do you guys play with adaptive triggers on or off when you're playing games like Call of Duty competitively online? Now, onto the big stuff, the games. This one's a bit tricky because even though there are games for the PS5, these are actually, for the most part, cross-gen games. Honestly, the games I've played so far have all been fantastic. And yeah, most of them are available on the PS4. But a game that takes advantage of the PS5's power is something that cannot and should not be ignored. Aside from Call of Duty on the PS5, I'm currently playing God of War and Horizon, which are both PS4 games. Now, that's not to say that the games on the PS5 aren't fantastic, because they are. They are truly phenomenal. Miles Morales and Astrobot are by far my highlights so far. I don't currently own Demon's Souls, but I do know that it is a fantastic game. I'm just a bit on the fence about it, but who knows, I might give in and buy it sooner rather than later. So the games that we know about, the ones coming over the next several months, look fantastic. And games like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart really show what the PS5 can do when it's not being held back by the previous generation. And again, Sony really do make some fantastic games, and I just can't wait to play them all. Well, almost all of them anyway. Plus, if you're a PSN subscriber, you get the PlayStation Plus collection, and you get 20 really fantastic games from the PS4 generation. And if you're like me, you probably will have quite a few of them, but I'm sure, again, like me, there will be at least a few that you don't have. And again, it is something to play whilst you're waiting for your next big game. Talking about having a PSN subscription, please hit the usual buttons that everyone says so that we can build a fantastic gaming community together. So, should you buy the PS5 or should you wait? Well, like my Xbox review, same answer. These are really hard to find. So if you can't find one, then I'm afraid you're stuck waiting. But let's say you can find one at retail. Should you buy? Yes. Simple answer. Yes. Honestly, the games I've played so far have all been fantastic. And yeah, most of them are available on the PS4. But a game that takes advantage of the PS5's power is something that cannot and should not be ignored. Plus, I kind of want to create a Call of Duty clan so we can all battle it out. But in all seriousness, yeah, this is a truly fantastic console. The games are fantastic, the control pad is fantastic. simply fantastic. So, what's my verdict? What do I think? I think we can all guess that this, for me, is a 10/10 recommend, a thumbs up. Now, for those of you that haven't watched my previous video, my review about the Xbox Series X, I spoke about my rating system. And just to give you a quick overview, I've gone for the most simplest thing I could think of. And for me, if a game gets an 8 to 10 out of 10, that's an instant buy for me. If a game gets between a 5 and 7, I will get that game later on if I can get it second hand, used, or at a significant discount. And anything below a 5 does not come anywhere near my consoles. So to keep it simple, 8 to 10 will get a thumbs up, 5 to 7, and anything below a 5, a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments below what you guys would rate the PS5, and let's not start any console wars or anything like that. Just let me know what you guys think of the PlayStation 5. The PS5, for me at least, is my favourite console of all time. And just to put that into context, my previous favourite console of all time was the GameCube. Anyway guys, that's it from me. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back shortly with more gaming news, insights, reviews and analysis. But if there is anything that you guys want me to cover, or have any questions that you guys want me to speak about / answer, please do let me know in the comments below. I am active in there, and I will try my best to reply to almost every comment.